the street noise. Alright, let's do the test. Let's make sure that everything is happening. Let's see if I go here. Does it show me that I'm live? Yes, it shows me that I'm live. Interesting. But it's not giving me video. How strange. Oh no, it is. Okay, sorry guys. You know, I'm a one-person show here, so. Okay, shut that down so it's not bothering us. Hey! Oh, wow. So here I am. I can't believe how much has happened since the last time I did this live stream. Like, it's crazy. I know I say that every single time. Oh, Lord. So I think the last time I got on this live stream to give you guys an update, I think I literally had just gotten here, like, I don't know, 2 days before. And I've been here, so I've been here a little over a month now. And I'm going to start with all the amazing things that have been happening, because I know some friends were saying after the last one where I told the whole story of how the move happened and all the obstacles that came up was a little bit intense and anxious, but now we get to experience the bliss. So, and all the street noise. It's the only way I can get fresh air in the breezeway here. The only place in this house where there's air conditioning is in the bedrooms. Thank goodness for that. So pardon the dogs, pardon the children, pardon the cars. It's too bad the sound of the ocean is just a little bit too soft for the microphone to catch, but I do love the fact that every single morning that I wake up, I usually make myself a cup of tea, and then sometimes I'll have coffee, but I'm actually lately not even doing coughing really, so I'll just have a cup of tea and I'll just enjoy the sound of the ocean right outside my veranda. It's beautiful. It's so good to be here in that environment. So the best thing, I shouldn't say the best thing. It was kind of the best thing, but there's a lot of great things. But one of my dear friends, my dear sister, shaman's sister, came to visit just a few days after I got here. She arrived. And we had such an amazing time. And, you know, she expressed to me that, and this is what I'm offering anybody that comes to visit, really. She expressed to me that she didn't think that she would have loved Itacaré as much as she did having me as her guide. Because it's a lovely town. It's a really beautiful town. But I really have a very special connection to it, and I really, really enjoy sharing that special connection with other people. And the other thing that was really kind of amazing about the time she and I spent here together was, you know, we did a lot of healing work on each other that week, and also a lot of clearing of this house. I'll go into that story in a minute. And we were kind of trying to understand what exactly is my medicine? What is it exactly that I do for people? And I think we came up with, I help people get rid of fears and blockages so that they can follow their chosen path with courage. And I do it through just love. I just have this love that I express and share, and that's the container that holds the work of what I do for people in my shamanic healing. So that felt really great to have that that discovery, that insight about what I do and how what I offer has value. And other people that I've worked on here have totally agreed that that's what it is. So if anybody feels like they need some support energetically, emotionally, spiritually to clear your fears and walk your chosen, destined path with courage, just hit me up, man. You know, reach out, send me a comment, send me a message, find my information, you know, on my website, here on YouTube, wherever, Facebook, Instagram. Just find me. I'm starting to realize that that's just how it is. If you need me, just reach out. You know how to find me. Yeah, I've got, you know, CRM software and automations and all that stuff. But really, if you need that, if you need someone to give you energetic support to clear your fears so that you can walk your chosen path with courage, I'm here. I'm here for that. I'm here for you. So when she first got here, I had done a little bit of just kind of, you know, intentionally smudging and clearing the place, but I had sensed that there was perhaps something a little more complex going on in the third downstairs suite. And it's one of the reasons why I wasn't quite ready to put it up on Airbnb yet. I've got it as an auxiliary. It's cleared now, so don't worry. And she really helped me develop further the skills in sensing energy and sensing shifts in energy and when energy is darker or heavier. So here's where the story gets a bit intense. And there's other really beautiful, wonderful things too that I promise I'm going to share with you, so don't think it's all dark and intense. But, you know, if you're going to have the light and the joy, you got to have some shadow there too. So apparently there was some sort of entity in the downstairs suite. And apparently this entity was something that was imprisoning souls of people who had passed for probably a very, very, very long time. Even the dogs agree. And so one of the things that happened that was a really weird sign to me was, I think it was before she got here, I was just cleaning out that room downstairs, and there was a bat stuck under the door to the suite, and I was like, oh my god, I'm so sorry, and I tried to like shoo the bat out, and it got under the bed, and I would move the bed around and tried to shoo it out, and I could see that like its wing, he was kind of limping along, its wing seemed like it might have been wounded or something. And I was like, oh my god, little bat, I'm so sorry. And I didn't want to touch it because I don't really know like what kind of diseases bats carry, or if they bite or whatever, or am I going to turn into a vampire? So I sort of, you know, I grabbed a broom and I was trying to kind of shoo it out with the broom. And I was a little freaked out by that. Eventually, it got out of the suite and it ended up hiding under the water tank. And I was like, well, I can't reach it, so hopefully he's safe there. At least he's out of the room. And then I don't know if it was the next day or 2 or 3 days later. We weren't really going down into that area very much. I think she sensed and I sensed that we were going to have to deal with it at some point, but we weren't doing it right on the first couple days. But I looked over the edge of the patio and I saw that the bat was just dead right there in the middle of the courtyard. And I was like, oh my God, is it dead? And I walked down there and I kind of grabbed the broom and I just touched it a little and it didn't move at all. And I was like, this is so weird, because it was hiding and I don't know what would have prompted it to come out and just die. So I was very freaked out by that. I called the neighbor lady and I was like, what do I do? How do I get rid of it? Like, what do I touch it with? So she's like, I'll take care of it. She grabbed a couple of trash bags, just picked it up, threw it away. Oh my God, the poor bat. I just felt so bad for this poor little bat. And then when Ada was here and we realized there was this entity, she brought in her lineage. She's got a very powerful lineage from her family line in Vietnam. And, so she called in her lineage and they were able to get rid of that entity very quickly. But the room itself needed a lot of clearing. And here's the thing that she was able to witness and share with me, because I still don't really see a lot in the invisible world. I tend to sense things and feel things, and that sense is getting stronger, but it's still developing. And so sometimes I'm not sure. I'll have to double check. I'll do a pendulum check or whatever, but Ada's got a bit more solid abilities when it comes to seeing in the invisible world. So what we learned, what we realized, is that the downstairs suite had been some sort of holding cell for people who were enslaved, 500 years ago. Because this is a colonial town, so there's a pretty dark history here. And I found out later for some, one of my friends in the community here who was like, oh yeah, that little square right by the church was the site of a massacre. They were building a little park there and they uncovered just piles and piles of bones. So there's a lot of dark history that needs healing, and I have realized I have a part to play in that, and I'll get to that in a minute. But so what we realized is there were a lot of souls that had been trapped by this entity that were looking to leave, and they didn't know how to. And so Ada taught me how to, essentially it's basically psychopomp services, if any of you know what that is. So I now know that I have the capacity and the ability and the skill to call in spirits of people who have already passed and usher them off to healing realms, to higher realms, to the ancestral realms, to heaven, to whatever you want to call it. That's a task I've been given. It's a calling that I have. Here, it feels particularly important here. So that day, when her grandfather from her lineage took away the entity, and we realized there were souls that needed ushering out. I did one, and then I did another, and she looked at me and she was like, if we do this one by one, we're going to be here all weekend. And I just asked Spirit, is it possible for me to do more than one at a time? And the answer was yes. And I asked, can I do that right now? And the answer was yes. And so I just called in all the spirits in that place who were looking to leave, who were done with the suffering of this realm, who were just looking to get their release to go back home. And I ushered them. With our shamanic practices, it's basically our death rites. So it's like doing the death rites for somebody 500 years after they've passed. And it's possible to do that. So we did that. And Ada was pretty tired from the effort that it took to be the channel for her lineage to get rid of the entity. So I was like, I'm here as a support. And then since she was tired doing that, I was the one ushering the souls out. And then we finished, and we were both like, we need to rest for the rest of the day. And then either that night or the next night, we came back from dinner, and there was a bat just flying around so happily, just flying in and out of the trees right near our back window. It was like he was telling us, thank you, thank you, thank you for doing the work and clearing that fucking evil, whatever the hell, soul-sucking vampire that it was. So it felt really good and humbling and right to be able to do that service for this place. And then, a couple nights later, we were, we just out on the town, we had dinner, we were walking around, we were walking back home, walking through, the crowds of people or whatever. And she was like, oh, I think something glommed onto me, attached to me or whatever. And I was like, oh, wow, okay. And she's like, I can tell it's not an evil, entity or a demonic entity or anything that wants to do me harm. It was just the spirit of a person who was looking to the light, because, and there's a couple of different ways we can resolve that in shamanic medicine. And what she had learned and shared with me, and what I realized I could do, is instead of doing an extraction where we extract the entity or the spirit or whatever it is into a crystal and then release it, I can just encourage and coax the spirit of the person, if it's the spirit of a person who has passed, as opposed to an entity of a different sort. I can encourage that spirit to my shaman's table and usher it on. And she could see, so she could communicate with me sort of and the spirit at the same time. And she was like, oh, you need to talk to it in Portuguese, because she doesn't understand you when you speak in English. And so I talked to the spirit of this person in Portuguese, and I was like, just inviting her, it's okay. She's like, she doesn't trust you yet. And so I just really gently, lovingly encouraged the spirit of this person to come to this place where I could help her off to the healing realms, to the upper world. And I did it. And I was like, and it was just so wonderful. So Ada, if you're watching, thank you so much. To have the confirmation of someone who had a clearer vision with the invisible world to tell me whether or not what I was doing was working. And so now every few days I just get a little nudge in my intuition saying, okay, there's some more people looking to go. You need to get up, have your coffee, and then help these souls transition. So that's my service to the community here. No, I was gonna say nobody knows I'm doing it. I've told a few people just because it's a weird, curious oddity for me. I've never had anything like this happen or participate in it happening, and so it's just, it's just really new and interesting. But it isn't, I feel like it works better when there's no fanfare and no attention. But it is something. It's a service I can offer. So if someone feels like they've got a ghost attached to them, that is something I can do for them. I can help release the ghost in, two different ways. I can either extract it with a crystal, which feels a little harsh sometimes, because sometimes we have to really pull it out. It just feels better to encourage it onto the table, to have its death rites and release all the baggage and all the pain and all the, the stories and the wounds, so that their spirit can be lighter as they go up to the upper world. So that's really intense and interesting and wild, and I'm just so grateful that I've been given that gift to do that work. Then I learned how to salt smudge instead of sage smudging, and that was a very interesting experience. So we salt smudged the entire house, the downstairs, cleared this space out. We put a lot of work into clearing this house and making it intentionally a very peaceful, loving, safe house. And I kind of went down and I dedicated that space to liberty of all beings, that from now on no one in this space will ever be enslaved or oppressed or imprisoned. So that's the intention that we set. And almost everybody that has come into the house has commented, wow, it feels really nice in here. It's got a really good energy. And I'm like, oh yeah, thank you for noticing. We worked hard on that. And it does. It feels really, really nice in here. So one of the really amazing things that we did while Ada was here is we took a little boat ride up to the waterfall. And the guy who I call my Xara in Portuguese, when you have the same or similar name as somebody, you are each other's Xara. It's sort of like namesake, but different, more slang. His name is Laurindo, and here they call me Laurinha. So oh my goodness, that is not gonna work. Sorry for the microphone noise. I've got a ever so slightly different setup today, and my feet need a place to rest, and it should not be on the table that this computer's on. Excuse me. So, and this is totally unplanned. I passed him on the street. We were going somewhere else, and I was like, oh, hey, do you still, take your boat up the river and take people in it to go? And he's like, oh yeah, tomorrow I've got 2 other women coming with me. And I was like, great. He's like, do you want to join us? Yeah, great. So it was perfectly by happenstance that these 2 women were going up to the waterfall the same day we were. And they happen to also be 2 women who are healers. One is an astrologer and tarot reader, and the other one is a tantra therapist and a She's initiated in a shamanism that is indigenous to Brazil. She doesn't call herself a shaman, but she's initiated in shamanism. So when we met the next day, and we just thought we were going to go up, see the waterfall, and come back, and it ended up being this whole amazing all-day excursion. We get up to the waterfall, and we're having this great conversation with these two amazing women who ended up actually being my guests because they needed to leave the place they were staying. Their stay was up, and they wanted to continue in Itacaré, so they moved in here for a few weeks. And I had brought an offering of some flowers and fruit to the spirits of the river and the spirits of the land. And so we went actually a little bit higher than the waterfall to I thought it was the headwaters. It's not the headwaters. It's just a swimming hole, an area just above the waterfall. And I was like, let's go up there. It's a little more private up there. So we went up there, and we got in the water, and oh my goodness, it just felt so amazing to just lie on the rocks and just feel that cool, fresh water rushing over me. It felt like there's a space, an imagined space that we go to as shamans in the lineage that I was trained in, where it's like the gateway to the underworld. So we sort of go down the tree of life to this green meadow, and there's a river, and we're supposed to get in the river to, rinse off whatever we're not supposed to bring into the underworld, and then we go into the underworld and we do our work there in the various chambers that there are in the underworld, and then when we come back out, we go back into the river and we rinse ourselves of everything that's not supposed to come back up to the middle world. And so it was just gorgeous to be able to have that visceral memory of that water rushing over me, so that now every single time I do that for a client, I have that physical memory in my body of what it feels like to be cleansed by the waters of the river. And then sure enough, the four of us, Ada and I and these other two women, we were up there together, and the one who was initiated in indigenous shamanism here in Brazil, she had a rapé with her. I don't know if there's a translation in English, but it's some sort of herbal tobacco something that actually gets blown up your nose, and it's a sensation that lasts about 10 minutes. People have all sorts of different responses to it, but it's an indigenous medicine that is supposed to tap you into whatever communication you're supposed to receive, either from your higher self or from spirit guides. Some people do get sick and throw up, and that just means that there's something that was in them that needed to be purged. So we all did that. They invited us to do that, and I was like, yeah. We were like, yeah, we don't know you, but let's do this crazy thing in this waterfall. And it was, we all believe that we opened up a portal that day. It was pretty powerful. And two of them got very clear, distinct messages from Spirit. And I had this incredible physical sensation of just wanting to be on the rocks in the water. I sort of felt like I was tapping into my reptilian self that was totally linked to the earth. And for a moment, I could actually see the life of the water. I could see the shape of the water. I could see the ripples in the water that I hadn't remembered seeing, and it was for me it was a very visceral experience that was so powerful and really connected me to the earth. I love that there's kids to play in the street here. It just feels like a nice, happy family area. Right? So that happened, and it was totally unplanned. And of course, the best things in the world happen when they're unplanned. Because then the next day, we went to my favorite beach, which is like an hour-long hike in the jungle, which was beautiful. It was beautiful. But we had this idea that we were going to go down there. We brought our mesas with us. We were going to do healings on the beach and film them and take pictures. And, I think Spirit doesn't really like it when there's, too much fanfare or attention. And so, there was some benefit. We both got a little bit of benefit from, I did a session on her, she did a session on me. But it's not the same. And it was fine, but it was like, okay, that was too planned. It was still a really beautiful, beautiful experience because that hike itself is just so lovely, so lovely. And the beach Prainha is still one of my favorite beaches here. So after Ada left, I started, and then of course, so we went to one of my favorite restaurants. Of course, now it's really mostly a pizza place, and I just don't really eat pizza anymore because I don't really eat bread and I don't really eat cheese. And if you don't eat bread or cheese, there's not much left of a pizza that's interesting. It's just a pile of tomato sauce and some vegetables. But the owner did make specifically a gluten-free crust for us because I told him we were coming in. And, oh my goodness. Okay. I don't know what that was. I'm not sure if I should. Okay, sorry guys. I keep forgetting that kids love firecrackers here. It's the weirdest thing. They really love firecrackers. And I really don't like firecrackers. I don't enjoy the sound of guns. I don't enjoy the sound of fake guns. I don't enjoy thinking about that. But anyway, I am feeling like I'm going to close the window, though, so I'll be right back. Oh, the joys of live. You heard it here. Oh my goodness. So when we were at my favorite restaurant, of course they usually have live music there, and so there was this guy there playing, and I didn't know him at the time. Now he's like a darling person, and if you've looked at my Instagram feed, you've seen us playing music on our back porch together. And Gustavo, total sweetheart. He's traveling all of Brazil, living out of his van and playing music. So he's living his adventure, and he's a total sweetheart. But so Germain, the owner of this restaurant, he was like, "So are you gonna jam with the guy?" And I was like, "Well, I haven't been invited yet." I said, "If I'm invited, I will sing." And Ada was sure it wasn't going to happen because we were there, we ate, we were finishing, it wasn't happening. And I was like, It'll happen. It just needs to happen in the right time. It's one of those things you can't really force. So she was like literally getting ready to get up and go, and I was like, hang on, just a minute. So sure enough, Germain goes over to the guitar player and says, "Yeah, yeah, we have a singer here," and she said, "Oh, I said, tell them I'll sing Summertime. Summertime is, it's an easy song for me to sing. It's kind of one of my signature songs. Like people can usually choose whatever style. They can do it in the classical style. They can do it in Janis Joplin style. I can sing it in whatever style." So he tells the guy, "Yeah, there's a singer here. She's a good singer, and she wants to sing Summertime with you." And he was like, "Oh, okay." And he seemed a little shy and nervous. He was like, "I just learned how to play Summertime, this week, because I'm in this band project, and we had to learn it for this concert we're doing." I was like, "Oh, perfect. Okay, good." And, I think he asked me, like, what kind of a feel I wanted. And I was like, play with it, have fun, do something that feels, whatever. And, oh, man, he came up with this really just very Brazilian style, quasi-bossa, jazzy feel to it. And I sang. And it's funny, Ada was laughing because there was this couple that was like literally getting up to walk out, and as soon as I started to sing, the guy turned around and turned on his cell phone and started filming me singing. And, so it was great, it was fun. And later, not even that night, later when I ran into Gustavo on the street, it was so sweet. He told me that he wasn't quite sure how to play it and how it was going to go, but as soon as I started singing, it was as if he had some like divine inspiration come down, and he suddenly knew exactly how to play the song. And I was like, whoa. Yeah, you gotta love that. You gotta love it when shit like that happens, man. So that was a lovely little divine magical moment, because they happen so often now here in my life. It's really beautiful. And so, then Ada and I had a great time. She left, she went back to the States. It was all wonderful. And so then I started to realize, okay, it's time to start, kind of getting my face around town singing, letting people know that I'm back and I want to sing and I want to find musicians and get something going here or whatever. So a friend of mine texted me one night. She's like, "Hey, what are you doing?" I was like, "Hey, I'm free. What are you doing?" She's like, "I want to hear your voice. I want you to sing." And I was like, "All right." So she took me to, one of the places. There's so many places now. It's so different than it used to be. It used to be hard to find places where there was music, and now there's just music everywhere. It's so great. So one of the places where they have kind of a house band. It's really more like a keyboard player and either bass or guitar player. The keyboard player knows like every song under the sun. It's amazing. I don't know how he knows, like people name a song and he just plays it. So she's like, "I'm going to take you to this place." And so she brought me in, and they were already, it was kind of a little later by my standards. Although actually, it turns out, since the pandemic, Itacaré has kept their curfew. So I think at midnight everything closes, which is very weird for Brazil, because it used to be that things only started at midnight and went, until dawn. But now I guess things have to start at like 9 or 10, and then they're done at midnight, and then people, make their way home from there. So I think it was already like, I don't know, 10:30 or maybe 11. And so she tells the guys she knows that were, I think they were like the bouncers, or I don't know, I feel like they worked there, but they weren't really waiting tables or tending bar. They were just sort of there. Super nice guys. They're now calling me the muse of Itakare, because I sang, and of course I also was dancing, and they're like, oh, she's got groove. So, and now the keyboard player calls me Nina G Blues, so the girl of the blues here, because I sang, I think I just sang a blues song, something original, I just said, give me a slow blues in D minor. I might have done Summertime Again, I can't remember. So everybody was like, Lordy, it was great. And then, a few nights later, I went to the jam session. There's a local hostel bar that does a jam session on Thursday nights. And walked in, and, there were some musicians playing. It was all right. It was nothing, it was cool. The place was pretty packed, but it wasn't, super hopping. And I was like, oh, I don't know how this is going to work. I don't know if you have to sign up. And so one of the women I was with, she's like, oh, I'll just ask. So she just went right up to the percussionist that was jamming, and she was like, I got a singer here that wants to sing. What is she? He's like, get her up there right now. Like, oh, okay. So I'll get up there. And so I sang one song that's an original song of ours, and then I just improvised on a new song that I'm writing about the urubu, which is the vulture bird here. There are tons of urubu, there are tons of vultures here in Itakare. It's weird how many vultures there are. I've never ever seen a place on planet Earth that always has so many vultures. And I've even asked around. I was like, it is weird that this place has so many vultures, right? Yep. So I'm writing a song about the urubu. I'm calling it the funky the urubu. So I sang these two songs, and it just felt so beautiful and amazing and wonderful, and everything that I sang, I could feel the love of the audience coming right back to me, and it was this really beautiful exchange of energy. And when I was done, I went up to get a bottle of water, because I just sung 2 songs, I was parched. And when the guy in front of me at the cashier turned around, he looked at me and he was like, I don't know what you did, but you completely transformed the energy in that place. And he kept he was like, I'm not worthy. He kept, I don't remember everything he said, because he just sort of went on and on and on about how amazing it was. He didn't know what I did. And I was like, thank you. And then I kind of smiled and I said, oh, I should probably tell you, I'm also a shamanic healer, and I use my voice as part of my medicine. And he was like, I don't know if he was happy amazed or freaked out amazed, I'm not sure. But as we were walking away that night, I remembered a vision I had about a year ago of a person who I just presumed was me, standing at the top of a cliff using nothing but voice to broadcast healing to people who were down at the bottom of the cliff. And as I was walking away, I was like, oh my God, that's exactly what that felt like. I did it. I did the thing that I had in the vision a year ago. So, oh my God, this has been so. And then the next night, I gave another jam session, and everybody loved it. And then a few nights later, I was a special, guest at Sandy's hostel, Maiskinala, which I love. I think some of you might have seen that on my Instagram live. And it's been so beautiful. And so one of the women who's staying here with me, she and I were kind of brainstorming the other night about like what do I want to do with my voice, with myself, what's my purpose here. And I realized, so here's the thing that they taught us in our shamanic training. We're living in a time where the gates of heaven have been opened, and there are a lot of spirit guides coming down to be helping us through this transition of this time period where we're in a period of everyone is going through an evolutionary process. But when the gates of heaven are open, the gates of hell are also flung open. And so there's also a lot of dark entities and dark energies that are trying to feed off of fear. And sure enough, they like to hang out at night. And so when we're hanging out at night on the streets in Itakare, that's when a lot of these energies and entities are lurking. And so it's important to have an influence that can counter that. And so I realized, oh, that's what I'm supposed to be doing with my singing here, is to go in and sort of do like a spiritual kind of maintenance cleanup job. Go in, raise the vibration, clear the dark energy out, give everybody a little bit of boost to their positive light body experience, and be on my way. So that was a really kind of interesting and beautiful realization of what I'm supposed to be doing here. So then, oh my goodness, this is like the longest live I've done in a really long time. So the other night, I was, again, out on the street, whatever. And I think it was that same night that we had that conversation about, what's my purpose here? Because it also led to a conversation about what is my value and how do I communicate my value. And that has been a stick in the mud for me for a very, very, very long time. And something happened to me, and I was convinced that I had gotten tapped by some sort of energy vampire, because for a couple days I was just in bed. I was sick in bed, stomach issue. It was as if I had food poisoning, but I wasn't eating anything different, that I normally do. I had a vegan lunch, rice, beans, and salad, and I, had been eating pretty light. I hadn't been cheating on my rules, so I was like, it can't be anything that I was eating. And I realized that block of how I communicate my value manifests itself in some dark energy. And luckily I do have, a community of shamans, and my dear sister Ada was able to help me out with identifying that it was a blockage that came from an ancestral line. It was not even my wound. It was a wound from a previous generation of someone who had, I was going to say given her power away, but it's not really given away when someone takes it from you in a situation of abuse. And we inherit those wounds, and that's been proven in science from, genetic inheritance of past trauma. So she was able to help me clear that. And it's amazing how from one day to the next, it was like all the anxiety about how to communicate my value just got erased. It just got erased. And I'm just Yeah, it sucked that I was sick in bed for 2 days, but boy, when you learn the lesson and you get over it and you have that lesson and you also have the physical memory, it just feels good. It feels good. So again, folks, I hope you're doing really, really well. And if you need energetic support for, your emotional or spiritual well-being, it happens to be a forte of mine. It happens to be a fortissimo of mine to help you clear that out. See what I did there? I didn't even plan that. See? The best things happen when you don't plan them. So do something unplanned. Send me an email and let's get yourself set up with a session. I'd be happy to help you out. Peace out, friends. Love you. Bye.